Hello everyone, and welcome back. My name is Bill Farley, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a professional archaeologist, and I'm an associate professor of archaeology, and I run this little YouTube channel that doesn't have a huge following, but I found myself embroiled in an interesting debate as of recently. So for those of you who have been following along with this discussion on Twitter and the rest of social media, there's this guy named Graham Hancock. Now, Graham Hancock is an old-school pseudo-archaeologist, been around for decades, writing books about archaeology and aliens and Atlantis and a number of other things. He's notably a hero of Joe Rogan. Hold on to that note, that's going to come up later. A big-name person in this whole world of adjacency to archaeology and conspiracy theory and that sort of thing. Well, Netflix gave him a show, so he very recently had a documentary come out on Netflix. It's multiple episodes long. I've watched it. It's interesting. It's called Ancient Apocalypse, and it features mostly ideas that are regurgitated from his books of the last several decades, as well as ideas that go back much further than that, back to theorists and historians and pseudo-historians of the 19th century and beyond. Now, I'm not here to do a rebuttal or to try and debunk the claims that Hancock makes in this show. Frankly, there are others who have already done that really well and done that much better than I can because they study these things. So I'll link to a couple of those in the description. One is a really good archaeological takedown by an archaeologist named Flint Dibble, and the other is let's call it a historicization, a contextualization of Hancock's work within the history of conspiracy theories and the dark societal factors that align themselves with conspiracy theorists. And that's by a guy named Jason Colavito, who wrote a series of blog posts. So again, I'll have those in the description. You should check those out. So I'm making this video not just for archaeologists, not just for the people I already know working in archaeology, but also for folks who might be interested and drawn into pseudo-archaeology, to engage with you folks and to open the door to people who are interested in archaeology. One of the dangerous claims that Hancock makes in this series is about archaeologists ourselves. He claims again and again throughout the show, it's really most of the show's runtime, is complaining about archaeologists as this sort of secret cabal of truth holders, that we want to own the past and we don't want anybody else getting involved. And we throw out the ideas of free thinkers and big ideas, people like Hancock himself, of course. None of this is true. That is a lie. He's telling you a lie. Every archaeologist I know is engaged with collaboration and consultation, interdisciplinary work with other sciences, and interested in discussing with the public and sharing our findings. We're as frustrated as anybody else that much of our work is cloistered in academic journals that people can't get access to. If you reach out to any of us and ask to see our research, I guarantee you we will send you PDFs of our papers. Most of them are available to anybody with a JSTOR or an EBSCO host, so if you know somebody who is a university student, you can get access to them that way. They're not hidden. They're not secretive. There is no secretive knowledge that we've got that we're not letting anybody else see. It's just not true. And it's dangerous because, frankly, a lot of us have been getting aggressive DMs, aggressive comments. People are angry at us because Hancock has a huge megaphone here. He is on Joe Rogan in front of millions of people, on Netflix in front of millions of people, calling us liars, saying that we hate people, we think they're stupid. None of that is true, but it is dangerous to say, and it is impacting us. So, frankly, it would be nice if he didn't do that. One of the claims that I've been making on the internet, and I think is something that's valuable to consider, is that Hancock is being elevated right now into a different sort of a role. Like I said, he's a guy that's been around for decades and has had success in this realm of pseudo-archaeology and archaeology-adjacent thought. And that's fine. I'm not going to knock the guy for writing books and selling books, whatever. But he's being elevated right now into this thing called the intellectual dark web. For those of you who aren't aware, this is the sort of loosely knit group of conservative thinkers like Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, and in this case, most notably, Jordan Peterson. I think Graham Hancock is the Jordan Peterson of archaeology. Now, I have complex, nuanced feelings about Jordan Peterson. I'm not going to discuss that here in this video. Hancock is an interestingly similar figure, right? He doesn't always say heinous stuff. He's not constantly lying. Sometimes he says things that are nice, but he has this academic-like pedigree. He doesn't have a PhD and he's not a professor like Peterson, but he has this long pedigree of publication and decades in the public eye to lean on in a very similar way. That makes him potentially more impactful and dangerous, right? Because that gives him, again, a huge megaphone to be associated with that group of people and to be with that crowd. So I'm going to be curious to see in the coming months and years if Hancock continues to get elevated into that sort of role and we see him spoken about in the same way that we've talked about Peterson for years. I've also had some interesting conversations on Twitter over the last couple of days. I had an initially fruitful conversation with the person who runs the YouTube channel Bright Insight. Now, if you don't know about Bright Insight, it's one of the biggest, maybe the biggest pseudo-archaeology YouTube channel on this platform. He has many hundreds of thousands of subscribers, maybe over 1 million. I don't know. I'll check after this. I made a comment on one of his tweets and he responded to me and we got into a back and forth talking about why he felt that people were being unfair to Hancock, why archaeologists were super evil and mean, and I was trying to make the argument that that's not the case. The criticisms of Hancock from archaeologists in the last couple of weeks have been based in facts and science and sociology and history. We're trying to understand him within that context and recognize why the things he says, which are demonstrably false, are also potentially dangerous. As the conversation with Bright Insight went on, he kind of randomly called out another, frankly, much better YouTuber, History with Kaylee, said some pretty sexist stuff about her. I asked him not to do that, and then he blocked us both. So, okay, I guess it wasn't that productive of a conversation in the end. Now, the thing that really pissed him off was that he accused us of accusing him, and Hancock by extension, of racism and white supremacy. So let me talk about that for just a moment. I don't know if Graham Hancock is a racist. I don't know if Graham Hancock is a white supremacist. He may or may not be. But what he does not do in this show is address a long and deep history of white supremacy that is associated with his ideas. So Hancock's ideas, some of them are his own, some of them are borrowed from previous scholars going back to the 19th century and earlier, and all of them are utilized and associated with white supremacy movements. They are used to undercut indigenous claims to landscapes. They're used to undercut the achievements of indigenous people and ancient peoples of all types around the world. They are problematic and they are used to launder ideas by white supremacists and white supremacist groups. So my question to Hancock is this. You knew that was going to be a criticism of this show. You understood that going into it. I know you knew that. So why don't you address it? It's nowhere in the show. You don't bring that up. You don't call that out. You don't say, hey, scumbag racists who use my ideas, quit it, right? This isn't about that. I'm talking about an ancient group of people and these sites that are being hidden by archaeologists or whatever it is Hancock is saying. But if you don't believe that those things should be utilized by white supremacists and racists, call them out in your videos. Call them out in the show. Talk about it on Joe Rogan. Put it on the internet. Put it out on your social medias. Get out there and throw that stuff out. Call those people out. And maybe you've done that at some point in some tiny social media post somewhere, but you know what? It's not a part of this show. And it should have been central to this show because you knew that was going to be criticism number one that you would receive. And it's interesting that both Hancock and his supporters and defenders are seemingly most upset and most offended by that label, by being associated with that. And I get that. Nobody wants to be a white supremacist. Nobody wants to be accused of being a white supremacist. But here's the deal. If your ideas are being used by white supremacists and Nazis and hateful groups who are using them to target indigenous people and black and brown people and people of all types that are different from them, you need to call that out. You need to be proactive about that. And he didn't do that in this video. He doesn't do that in this show anywhere. So get on it, Hancock. That's all I'm saying. Get on it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. please, if you want to see more content like this or see me react to these sorts of things, or as we're going forward, I'm going to be doing more content that's just about archaeology, helping everyone, anyone, everybody is invited to understand archaeological context and archaeological concepts. And I'll do that both through media criticism, but also just straight up telling you about archaeological sites and findings. Do please subscribe to the channel and like this video and come on back, because there's going to be some good contents here, and it's not going to be nasty and it's not going to be mean, and I'm not going to call anybody out, and it's just going to be about cool archaeology. Okay. Thanks everybody.